Well, hello everybody and welcome to Distant Disney. I'm Danny Newman and joined always by Brandon Anderson. Brandon, how you doing?
I am great. The weather is turning to fall here, so excited to talk about more things Disney.
That's right, and of course, I think we got two things today that are going to date us a little bit. We're kind of back releasing these episodes a bit, but so yeah, it's beginning of fall now. But also big news coming out this week, unrelated to our topic of choice today, is that Illuminations is going away next summer.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
I was wondering where you were going to fall on this, because I know a lot of people who are diehard Epcot Illumination fans. So you are upset to see this go?
Well, I knew that this was coming, and a lot of folks are saying that they were surprised, but I think we knew this would happen. I can't say.
Yeah, this has been in the rumor mill for years. They've been talking about this. I mean, I first heard about this 5 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's been, Illuminations has been in Epcot for such a long time, and it is an incredible show. And I have to say, I was attached to Wishes just the same, and then they brought the team in and did Happily Ever After, and I was blown away, and I thought it was 10 times better. So one thing I do know is that the team who is doing Illuminations is actually the same team that created Happily Ever After, so I'm crossing my fingers that will be obviously a really
so they have a good track record. Yeah, I feel about the same, because Illuminations, by the time Illuminations goes away next year, it will be exactly 20 years old. It opened 99 just in time for the Millennium celebrations at Epcot. So 20 years of a great show, but that's also 20-year-old technology. And I think we are due for an upgrade, despite how many people I know who are just devastated the show is going away. What they did with, as you said, Wishes into Happily Ever After, I'm really excited to see what they do. And they've given us no information so far, just a very short blog post on the Disney Parks blog that we can say goodbye to Illuminations next year. They say mid-2019. We don't have an exact date. Presumably they'll do something similar to they did with Happily Ever After just before summer, so the summer rush can get it. But that's it. That's all we know for now. So very exciting to see what happens there.
Yeah, I think so. There's a hashtag going around on Twitter that I've seen that says hashtag Sync the Globe, which is, hurts my heart a little bit to hear something like that, because I love the Globe. I think what it stands for is incredible. But as you said, I'm confident that they will put out something that is really spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Globe too, and I love what it means and stands for. But I think I always thought it was really distracting in the middle of the show. We are, since the dawn of Illuminations in the 90s, we have seen Vine come and go. We are in the social media era, and attention spans just aren't as long as they used to be. And so that's a really long break in the fireworks. And I think they are acknowledging that. And I don't think we're going to have anything like that again.
No, yeah, I would agree with you. That is, a good several minute span. And if you don't have the best viewing location, then you really can't see what's happening on the Globe. And that's one of the other issues, with the perk to something like Wishes or Happily Ever After is if you can get any kind of view of the castle, you have a great view. But whereas with Epcot, you're not right up on World Showcase Lagoon, you're going to have a really hard time seeing what's on the Globe. I mean, you could be right up against the lagoon and still have a hard time seeing it.
Yeah, depending where you are, if there are trees, if there's, that archway in Japan, or if you're even more than just 6 people back away from the fence, you're probably not going to see that whole entire interlude in this section. But stand by for that. We'll come back to that as soon as Disney releases more information on that. So, Brandon, we decided today we're no longer in the same city. It was great having you in New York last week, but we're back in our hometowns, and maybe you're being in New York inspired this decision, but today we're going to talk about the live shows of Disney World. Live here meaning we're going to talk about all the specific venue-specific shows, so that with live performers in them. So that means like no Country Bears Jamboree, no Tiki Room, no, you could even argue Stitch's Great Escape back when that was open.
Yeah.
And venue-specific meaning they have a stage, an auditorium-style seating, or a specific location you go to, which kind of excludes like the Dapper Dans and shows like them.
Right. Not saying that those shows are not worth talking about, because I'll be the first to tell you I love watching the Dapper Dans, but just specifically focusing on stage shows and ones that have live performers. And there's still quite a few, Danny, at Disney. I mean, particularly Hollywood Studios, or
Yeah.
what was once MGM Studios, used to be the heart of where stage shows were.
Yeah, there really are. As I was going through and compiling my list, there are so many more than I expected. As I was going through and writing down, oh right, this show's got this, and this park's got this show, and there are I know it's not quite, but it feels like half of what you do at Disney is these stage shows.
Yeah, I would agree. And one of the things that I know people, have to deal with is they say, well, one of the tough parts about the shows is that you have to plan out your entire day. You have to plan it based on what all the times are. So we
Mm-hmm.
talked about this last week, where you have a times guide and you have to really go and schedule out your day. And so some people have expressed that they don't enjoy that, but then they go and see the stage shows and they're like, well, okay, it's worth it.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a theme in my, if we can call it, critique of these stage shows today, is that that worth it factor. Because when I go see a show at a theme park, odds are you're on a very expensive vacation, and if I'm going to go sit and see a show, I want to see something that I'm not going to be able to see anywhere else.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And, one of the things that I will say that Disney has done well with some of their shows, and the quote or the keyword there is some, is that they do get a bit of a Broadway feel to a few of their shows. They do put a lot of effort into some of them. However, there are other shows that I think should be, quite frankly, scrapped and need extra work.
Yeah, so let's dive right through and let's start talking about them. And I think you just mentioned it, but I think a great park to start in would be Hollywood Studios, because I think they still have. This is unofficial, but I think they might still have the most shows out of any of the
I'm
parks.
sure they do.
Yeah. And, jumping right into what I just said about going and seeing shows that you can't see at your local community theater or shows on stage are these stunt shows that they do. And I'm talking first, of course, about Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular. It's a stunt show there in Echo Lake. Of Hollywood Studios, based on, it's inspired by Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it does that stunt show trope that I think works really well, and that's why so many stunt shows do it, where you're not pretending that you're actually watching Harrison Ford running through the explosion and stuff. You're watching his stunt double, so they're not trying to fool you into thinking that this is this big celebrity here and you're watching them remake this movie from the 80s, but they're doing this wonderful thing of, hey guys, this is how we did it. Look at how cool it is that this is how we did it. But now you're going to get to see it live. And that's not something you get to see anywhere else.
No, yeah, they give you a behind the scenes view of what it is like for Harrison Ford to get ready for these scenes. And it is incredible because they take you through some of the most iconic moments, I think, in Indiana Jones. And they also do make use of some audience members, which is always something that I think really gets the crowd involved more, obviously, besides the clearness of them involving people. It's, people just like to see friends or family members that get to do something wacky.
Right. I mean, also super cool to be one of those audience members. Have you ever been picked to go up there and do that?
No, I haven't. But to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever volunteered either.
Really? Why not?
So I don't see myself as a stunt man or a stunt double in any way. I'm a little bit of a scaredy cat. I'm not afraid to say that. So, that's probably
fair enough. I've done it. I did it once with some friends, and all three of us got picked. We actually, on the same day we went over and did, if you remember that pre-show to the Backlot tour, we went and did that. We all stood on the boat and got shot at by the planes, and we did that. And then we immediately went over to Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular, and we got, all three of us were picked to be audience member volunteers for this show. And I can say that, I wouldn't do it on your first time there because you can't really see the whole grand scope of the show because it's all happening kind of behind you and to the side. But if you've already seen it, do this because it's happening behind you and to the side. You are so much closer to it. These tumblers are doing their flips and their whips and everything right in front of you, and it's terrifyingly close at times, even though you're perfectly safe. And that kind of that big climax of one of the scenes when the Jeep catches on fire and flips over, it feels alarmingly close. You never have an opportunity to be that close to something like that happening.
Right, and I think that's one of the best things that Disney does in multiple shows. We've talked about that with our podcast about Phantasmic, but
Hmm.
in this particular scene where they are able to set the Jeep on fire, and pretty much if you are from the midway point of the audience down closer to the stage, you're going to feel the heat from those flames, and I think that just that characteristic draws the audience in even more. You realize, wow, something is actually on fire.
Yeah. It feels real. It's not like smoke and mirrors. It's a real fire effect, and it gives it walks that fine line really well of giving the illusion of real danger, but the audience feels safe for the performer's safety at the same time. Like you walk into that, your hand is being held the whole time. You never feel like anything's going to go horribly wrong, even though I'm sure like any stunt show things do go wrong occasionally. But it's also, I mean, just these performers are brilliant stunt performers too. There's that in the kind of the opening huzzah, welcome to Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular. There's that one bit where the indie double, whatever whoever it is that particular day, he has to run through this field of spears that pop up from the ground. And he is, of course, in control of those spears. He has to hit pressure points on the ground very precisely. So there's nobody in the back, like, pushing it, and he just has to dodge the spears that come up. If he doesn't feel comfortable to hit a spear, he just won't. But so he hits those spears and, makes it look like he comes very close to being stabbed. But it's an incredible precision exercise on his part, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. And I every time I've been a member of the audience for that show, even after working for Disney, that part just always takes me by a little bit of surprise, because I think as an audience member, you look and you think, well, could something go wrong here? And,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the beauty of allowing him to step on those pressure points, allowing him to decide when he wants the spears to come up from the ground. And then you talk about some of the other stunts that he has to do, just simply I mean, the giant rolling ball that he has to outrun
Right.
is scary enough to watch.
And then that actually leads right into one of my next favorite parts about this show and the other stunt shows at Disney, although I don't know if there are any more left now. But the big reveal at the end, they kind of do this whole big thing and then they pull the rug away and say, oh, look, here's how we did this. So they do this whole big thing. He climbs up, the axes swing down over him as he's climbing over the pit. He climbs up and the big skull opens up and the giant rolling ball, famous from the Raiders of the Lost Ark, rolls out and it appears to roll over and crush Indy. And then, you get the joke of the director comes out and they say, it takes this team of like 10 guys to reset that ball, and 2 men are pushing it back up and one always stops and waves at the crowd and the other guy just keeps pushing it. It's this very light foam ball, like foam and rubber. And then as that giant set pulls apart, you can see within it, because the angle changes, you can see the track that the ball rolls down. You can also see the path right next to it where the indie double is running down. So you are then, it's revealed in a way that's not patronizing or anything. It's revealed that it was very safe and a pre-planned stunt, and there are channels and avenues for them to do this thing that make it look dangerous, but it's really just, a guy running next to a giant ball.
Well, and I think that was kind of the object of this show, and what really made it a success is you're showing the audience how things work. And I think
Yeah.
that, we've all sat and watched movies like Indiana Jones or, a variety of action movies, and looked at different stunts and things and said, wow, how do they do that? And it's hard to envision that when you're sitting at a movie theater or at home watching a film. But when you get an opportunity to see it firsthand there and see how they do just a few of those stunts, I think that is really incredible. People have an innate curiosity to know how things work. I mean, you and I can say that. We just saw Phantom of the Opera in New York, and every
Right.
5 minutes it was a wow, how did they do that? How did they pull that off?
Yeah, the tech was incredible. And I mean, and all psychology aside, it's just cool. You got it appeals to your inner like child of like, oh, big explosions and people running and stuff happening. It's just a really fun, good time. But I'll tell you, there is one stunt in this show that when they do it, because this one can be a little finicky, and I know they used to have some problems with it, that actually genuinely scares me a little bit each time. Can you guess what it is, Brandon?
Ooh, a stunt that scares you. The only thing I could think of is something to do with the plane.
Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely correct. It's that bit where the plane is just spinning in a circle, and Indy and the big, huge, generic muscle guy are having the fist fight. And of course, and in the movie, what happens here is then you cut away, you see Harrison Ford, and he just gets sprayed with blood as the big, huge muscle guy gets torn apart by the propellers coming up to him. Well, what they do in the Indiana Jones stunt show is right at what seems like the last second. I'm sure it's not. But a trap door opens up right underneath our generic muscle guy, and he just drops away, and the propeller passes by over him harmlessly, and he climbs back up a minute later after the stunt. And that one is never really explained in the show. They don't go, look, our big guy here is going to step on this pressure pad. The thing opens up because he can't, but he can't really see behind him. Is it the Indy double opening that trapdoor for him? I've also seen alternate versions of this where for a while that trapdoor didn't work and the stunt double just drop. He would just drop to the ground and avoid the plane going by him. But this one always freaks me out a little bit because I can't help but stop that little voice in my head that goes, even if those propellers are just like soft, squishy rubber, they're still spinning. There's still the centrifugal force is still holding them out. Those would hurt if they hit you, and I'm always just a
Yeah,
little
absolutely.
nervous for that stunt guy.
Yeah, I mean, laws of physics say that you're going to, whether regardless of what the material of it is that spins, if you get hit by them, it's not going to feel good and it could do, a little bit of damage. So you're right. I think back to that point, and there never really is an explanation as to how it works. And I think
Yeah,
that, maybe that's part of the beauty of the show too, that they're going to explain so many things to you, but they're still going to leave, Disney always likes to leave a little piece to the imagination.
yeah, you're right, and that is part of their big finale. Then they don't come out and say there is no big reveal after that. That's just hey folks, hope you enjoy the show. Goodbye. After that, it's their big clincher. But I think we better move on, or we're going to spend all day talking about Indiana Jones. Let's move to the other side of the park now. Talk about Beauty and the Beast live on stage.
Mhm.
Opened up on November 22nd, 1991. And here's the ballsy part of this, if you pardon the term. That's the same day that the movie came out. Disney opened this live stage show, a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, of the Disney version of Beauty and the Beast anyway, on the exact same day the movie came out. That's a lot of self confidence.
It is, I can only think that what happened is, of course, studios, MGM Studios at the time, opened in 1989. So a part of me thinks that maybe they were struggling to find stuff for the park.
Mm-hmm.
Originally MGM Studios opened as a half day park,
Right.
and so I think that yes, it is a little bit ballsy as you said, but I feel like they needed stuff for this park and they had to fill it with things in order to attract guests.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. I can't speak too much to the actual history of it, but that seems certainly par for the course for some of the things Disney did back in the '90s. Now, Brandon, what is your opinion of this show?
So, you know, I have very strong opinions and I have voiced them in several podcasts already, and I know not everyone's going to agree with me. I'm not a huge fan of this show, but to be fair, I've seen Beauty and the Beast touring when it was on Broadway, and to
Mm-hmm.
be honest with you, I wasn't a huge fan of that either. And before anyone says, well, he just doesn't like Beauty and the Beast, that's not true. It's actually one of my favorite movies, by far my favorite movie involving a princess, because I think that it's just it's a little more unique than your traditional princess and prince type story, fall in love happily ever after. There's a little bit more of a challenge that the princess has to overcome.
Sure.
I just think that with the music in this movie, and the music that was created by Alan Menken, I think that there could be more done with it. I think that Be Our Guest just leaves so little to be desired, when to me that could be this epic, explosive part of the show, and it's just not.
Right. So I think you hit on the same points that I have about this show too. Is that it's nothing I can't see anywhere else. I know they have the characters, the Beast, and they've got Mrs. Potts and all that, and they've got the some live action puppetry there. But they've got a mix of Angela Lansbury actually singing pre-recorded, as she's been doing for the last 20 something years of that show, and Robbie Benson is the Beast. But then they got a live Belle, so good for her. But you've got these voices you are familiar with, and then a different voice you're not familiar with. And then, as you say, like you saw Beauty and the Beast on tour coming through, there really isn't anything about this show that is something totally unique to theme park atmosphere and culture.
Right.
It's a nice sit down show. It's an abbreviated musical, which are always hard to pull off anyway. Um, and everybody, unless you're living in some huge, like really, really, really far out rural community, everybody has a local community theater, or there's a big city, maybe an hour away, where the national tours come through, and you can go see better Broadway caliber versions of these shows, not necessarily Beauty and the Beast, but you can go see actual shows. And I think, if you're taking a vacation to Disney World and you're spending all that money, this probably isn't something that you need to go see, unless you have toddlers who just really, really want to see this show. But if
Sure.
it's just like a family with some older kids, I think you could miss this show.
I would agree with you, and I have to say that I'm not really a huge fan of shows in the parks that are simply a very condensed version of the movie. That's what I love about
Yeah.
Indiana Jones, is it really is not the movie. You could watch the movie and you're going to see some familiar scenes, and we're going to talk about other shows coming up that, you know, put a little spin on the movie. But if you really think about what Beauty and the Beast live on stage is, it is a very short rendition of, here we go, we're going to run through all the main songs and we're going to call it good.
Right. And it's for an impressive capacity. Like, it's a 1,500 seat theater. So that's the size of a Broadway house. So it really could be so much more if it wanted to. It just isn't.
Yeah, I think the one thing I like about this show, well, I probably shouldn't say the one thing, but the main thing that I like about it is that it is in a more amphitheater style. And I think that's a little more unique for Disney. So many, of course, I guess Indiana Jones is an amphitheater style show too, but a lot of folks get tired of going into that, into a building and having to file in. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that the amphitheater feel gives it, a little more uh, oomph, I guess you'd say, with the show. But yeah, I have to agree with you, Danny. This is one of those shows that, unless you have young kids who are really into Beauty and the Beast, I say skip this one.
Yeah, and even then, if you do have really young kids who would enjoy this, like, go see Playhouse Disney on stage, live on stage. It's in the
Yes,
same
Disney
park, Disney or Disney Junior, whatever they're calling it now. Yeah, I've never gone to see it, but from what I've heard, it's a great time for little kids who are into that. And if you
Yeah.
had to choose between one or the other, Beauty and the Beast or Disney Junior live on stage, I'd probably go with Disney Junior live on stage. It's indoors, it's air conditioned, you get that break. As beautiful as the amphitheater is, it's and it's a unique thing. They've got puppets and bubbles fall from the ceiling and everything. It's one of those unique to the theme park things that the kids will remember.
Yeah, I used to tell, working at Hollywood Studios, any guest that would come up and say, I have young toddlers, what should I do? I would always direct them to Disney Junior, because it's a show that, like you said, has bubbles and has interactive things for the kids, but it's also the shows that they sit at home and watch every day, every morning. And I'm not even going to try to name what these shows are, I because I haven't seen them, the change since I was a
Yeah.
kid, but those are the shows that are going to be featured in Disney Junior, and that's a way better option.
Right. It's relatable. As much as these kids probably, kids will watch Beauty and the Beast, the movie, for the next 50 years, but it's this is more currently relatable. Um, but anyway, so we were talking about these shows that are abbreviated into the theme parks. And I think, an even stronger example of that is The Voyage of the Little Mermaid.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, right there in Animation Courtyard, which when I was doing my research for this, I had forgotten it was this short. This show, this again abbreviated version of The Little Mermaid, is only 14 minutes long. It's a
Yeah.
really fast show.
Well, and that's the crazy part. So you're talking, first of all, back in the day, this was the only, and I may be incorrect in saying this, but I'm pretty positive this is true. The only show that ever actually had a fast pass for it. Now, with the advent of Magic Bands and a Fast Pass Plus and everything like that, you can get a fast pass for just about anything.
Right.
But at the time, this was the only show that you could get your traditional paper fast pass for. And a lot of people would always ask and say, well, do I really need a fast pass for this? And the answer was no. And to be honest, I could never tell you why they had one. But because it is a 14-minute show, they literally have shows uh, that run just about every half hour. So you figure a 14-minute show, they basically take the same amount of time in a break to, I assume, rest the performers and to basically unload and load the theater, and then there we go again with the next show.
Right. If even, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they did this every, 20 minutes or something. Yeah. You talk about only 14 minutes long. They just, yeah, they reset. They probably bring in A cast, flips out with B cast for the day, and then off they go, off to the races again. But this was a perfectly cute show, I thought. Again, nothing special. You got really, really tiny little versions of the song. It's only 14 minutes long. Great puppetry, though. Great use of black lights and puppets, which checks off that box in my list of, does this show have things you can't see elsewhere, back at home? And the puppets, I think the giant Ursula that comes out, Ursula is 12 feet high and 10 feet wide. You're not going to see that at your local community theater. So the show, yeah, and it's not a huge time sink. You might have to wait in line outside, or fast passes if you want to. You might have to wait in a line outside for a little bit to get in, but then it's only a 14-minute show, and so I really don't have a huge problem with this show. It is what it is, and I like it.
No, yeah, I would actually, despite me saying that I'm not a fan of condensed shows of movies, I'd actually say I'd rather see this over Beauty and the Beast, because this one just has, like you said, the black lights, the puppetry. It has a little bit more to it. At
Mhm.
one point in this show, bubbles all fall from the sky as well, or from the ceiling, and creates that illusion that you are under the sea. And I think that just those few little things actually make this one a little more worthwhile.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Now, of course, the biggest show in Hollywood studios is Phantasmic, which we did a whole episode about. So I don't even think it bears talking about here. Go listen to that podcast episode if you want to hear us talk about Phantasmic. But I think is worth talking about, even though it's closed and gone, is Lights Motors Action.
Yeah, so this was a huge stunt show that, to be honest, was not in Disney for that long.
No, it
Um,
really wasn't.
yeah, and you probably have the dates in front of you, and I don't know the exact dates, but I know that this was created as part of the happiest celebration on Earth, and that was when Disney basically came up with something really cool to add to each park. This was when Soarin', I believe, was created and came into Epcot, and just kind of when they were adding new things to celebrate their anniversaries. And this
Yeah.
was what came to Hollywood.
Yes, you're right. So Lights Motors Action opened originally in 2005, May 5th, 2005, and it closed only not even 11 years later on April 2nd, 2016, which, my God, I can't believe it's been 2 years since it's closed. This was one of my absolute favorite shows in the park. It was, if I had a day off and I was going to go to Hollywood Studios, more often than not, it was to like ride Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster and see Lights Motors Action. Because this is, I mean, you want to talk about shows that you can't see that stuff anywhere else. Oh my God, it's this show, this giant car stunt show with the ballet. What do they call it at the beginning? The Russian ballet or something like that, where it's just cars spinning around and bumping noses at each other, and explosions and high falls and jet ski chases. It had everything that you can't see anywhere else.
Yeah, it was almost like you had stepped inside of like a Vin Diesel movie and just seen, exactly how all of this stuff is done. And this almost goes back to what we said with Indiana Jones. It brings out that little inner childhood of, wow, things are on fire, tires are screeching, things are exploding. So much is happening, and it really just draws your attention. I have such fond memories of this show, not necessarily from watching it, but, from working as a cast member at Toy Story Mania. I was just down the street from this show. And anytime I was outside at work, of course, Toy Story Mania is inside a building, but anytime I was at an outdoor location, I could hear this show going on.
Yeah.
You couldn't hear everything, but boy, when the tires were screeching and there were crashes and things going, you most definitely heard it.
Yeah, and you could hear. I mean, there was a period where I worked over at Blizzard Beach, a little ways away, and I could hear it from there. This was a loud show. They pulled out all the stops. Everything was real. Those cars were actually squealing around. You could hear the guns firing the blanks. I mean, listen, I'm a huge pacifist, but it was exciting. It was really fun, and they were moving fast too. They had the whole thing off. If you're in the audience facing the stage, off to the left, Acceleration Alley. If you were taking the studio backlot tour, you could see the cars revving up and speeding along there. They would, if you were lucky, you'd even see them driving back there on two wheels and then flip down, and the drivers would wave at you and go, "Yeah, I'm driving on two wheels. What about it?" It was an exciting, exciting show.
Yeah, I've always wondered why they took this show away. I know the obvious answer, and that's because we know what that area is going to become. That's going to be
Right.
Star Wars Land. But I think that this show, and again, I have no real data or facts to back this up, but this is just me speculating. I think that this show probably cost a lot of money to put on every day.
Yeah. I mean,
And
they
I
had to
wonder,
change those tires after every single show. Disney had, and this is, I don't know how true this is. That I got this from a YouTube video of somebody filming a backstage tour of it. They had a $10 million a year budget just for the tires. You figure they're doing 2 or 3 shows a day, 5 or 6 cars in there maybe, plus all the motorcycles, and they had to change all the tires in every
yeah,
single one, plus the maintenance. And I mean, those are all the drivers are for the most part all SAG drivers. You got to pay them union rates to do this stuff. You got to pay all the mechanics. You got to maintain the cars. It's a giant, giant area to upkeep. You got to pay a ton of front of house staff to keep that thing going.
sure.
It was a very intricate, expensive show. I think you're right there.
A big undertaking. Yeah. And if you think about, $10 million in tires a year, is it really worth, I think that was where they had to weigh the pros and cons of this show, resetting it, whereas something with going back to like a Beauty and the Beast on stage, you're paying performers, you're paying front of house cast members, but at the end of the day, the costumes, the sets, the props, everything is already there and it's been done, and you
Right.
basically are just resetting everything every day. Or with Little Mermaid, okay, so at the most, what are we doing? Filling some tanks with, bubble soap. So I mean,
Right. And even the day to day maintenance on those costumes, or even buying a whole new costume if something tears, pales in comparison to maintaining the upkeep of those cars.
sure. One show that, while we're kind of in the Hollywood studios realm, and actually, before I, go on to this, I want to talk about a show that used to be in Hollywood studios. It was a big deal, but there's one other one that I want to mention, and I say this because I saw it over the summer, and I don't know that I've ever been more disappointed in Disney with a show.
I don't
And
know where you're
this
going with this.
was, do you know where I'm going?
No, I don't.
The Frozen show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was the last thing on my list. I haven't seen this, so tell us about it.
Okay. So, of course, this theater here has been a million different things over the course
Is
of the
that
years.
it's in the premiere theater, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
for a long time this was the American Idol experience. I believe way back when Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was in this theater as well.
Oh, it's in
Um
that theater now. Oh, I remember when this show first began. It was in the premiere theater, which is way back, like
you're right.
behind Muppet area, and it was just kind of this
Yeah.
giant
So
event
it's
space.
no
So it's
longer in
moved.
Premiere. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, Premiere used to be it used to be back there, but this has now taken the place, and I can't think of the name of the theater actually, but it is more towards Echo Lake, and this is where American Idol was,
Right.
and like I said, I believe
Just to
where
the
Who Wants.
left of where the hat used to be. Yeah.
Correct. And I have been told by several people that this Frozen show was not always this way and that it has changed, but I love Disney with all my heart. This is the most low budget thrown together show I've ever watched in a Disney park.
Oh, that's too bad.
And I know that's a bold statement, I know, but I say this because you have basically two narrators that come out and they introduce the show. They are funny. They crack jokes at each other, and they basically, in the news world, I'm a local, I work in local news, so we would call it a toss to. They basically toss to clips of the movie. And so you have
Hmm.
these giant wide screens, and they'll, your narrators will say something like, "All right, here's Let It Go." and we then go to a clip of Elsa in the movie singing "Let It Go,"
From the
and
movie.
then
It's not. It's. Yeah, I know it used to be a live performance. Is it now just you watch the animated Elsa with Idina Menzel
you watch
singing?
the movie, and then it comes back to the narrators, and the narrators will talk for a few more minutes. They'll say, "Wow, she did a great job singing that song," and then they'll say, "Okay,
Oh
here is
boy.
Love is an Open Door." And then we go back to the movie. And I know that it used to be live performers, so I can't speak to what it used to be at that point. My only guess is that they had a really tough time finding somebody who could hit Elsa's notes all the time.
Well, yeah. I mean, Idina Menzel is Idina Menzel. Finding anybody who can replace her, even for a local Disney show, is. I mean, that's got to be hard. But wow,
Sure.
that's disappointing.
It is. Well, it is because, to me, if you couldn't find somebody to hit the notes, maybe we explore the idea of a pre recorded thing like we do with Beauty and the Beast. But I was so disappointed because, to me, anybody who comes to Walt Disney World and pays to get into these parks, I could sit and watch the movie Frozen at home if I wanted to. And
Right.
it was just, it was a disappointment all around.
Hmm. Yeah, that because I know when it first opened up over in the Premiere Theater, it was, as you say, live performances of the songs, which, again, doesn't really fill that requirement of it's not something you can't see at home, somebody just singing the songs. But
Yes.
at least, I mean, this was definitely aimed at toddlers and younger children, the 5 to 7 range, and it was exciting for them to see Elsa and Anna in person on stage. So it was a
Yeah.
good children's show, I guess. Didn't really appeal to like larger families. But boy,
Well,
now if it's just screens, oh man.
well, don't get me wrong. I mean, any kid would still love this show just
Right.
because there are many kids that I know of who sit and watch the movie 3, 4 times a day at home. So, you know, to any kid, it's like, okay, I can sit here and watch the movie and they won't know the difference. But to the rest of us, it's like knowing what Disney is capable of when you go down the sidewalk and see Indiana Jones and then you come and see this. It was, to me, very much just thrown
Yeah.
together. And I do hope that they they put some major overhaul into that show soon.
I wonder if them wondering what the staying power of Frozen is going to be, or if they have, some other big princess movie up their sleeve that we don't know about that they think might overthrow the Frozen sensation. That is, I mean, it's still going on. Frozen came out in 2013, and kids still love Frozen despite all the other movies that have come
Yeah.
out since. So maybe this is them just going, maybe it's not worth investing the millions of dollars to create a long-term show like Beauty and the Beast. Even though we don't love Beauty and the
And that's
Beast, at least
possible
that's
too.
like a real show.
That's possible. We have seen other princess movies that were kind of surrounding Frozen. You had just a few years before that when Tangled was released. And
Hmm.
then not too long after that, we had Moana and we've had Brave with Merida. There have been some really iconic princesses, but none of them have ever proved to have as much success as Frozen did.
Yeah, so can't help but wonder what else they've got up their sleeve that maybe they don't want to invest in this. But all right, I think we covered Hollywood studios pretty well there. A whole lot of shows happening there. Can't wait to see what happens. I mean, we should do a podcast someday just about what's going on at Hollywood Studios. There's so much happening there between Toy Story Land just opened up, Galaxy's Edge about to open up, hopefully next year, and then just the gondolas that they're building outside. I mean, a lot of exciting things happening. But you talk about Throw 2. I think let's throw it over to Animal Kingdom, another park with a lot of shows going on over there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start off with my favorite show on Disney property, besides Fantasmic. Fantasmic to me is in its own category, but this is my favorite show if I'm just wandering around a park to sit down and watch, and this is Festival of the Lion King.
Yep, I
And
agree completely.
Festival of the Lion King, you could almost argue, is a shortened version of the movie, but there are little things in this show that make it 100% different than the movie, and that is what really appeals to me.
Yeah, Lion King is a fascinating thing because you've got the movie, which is an amazing Disney movie. I mean, certainly one of my favorites, and has that real lasting power. You've got the Broadway show, the Julie Taymor Broadway show, which also has incredible lasting power. And although I've never
Oh,
seen it because I live in New York, but tickets are like $200 still, and
okay,
your
well, you
boy
got
doesn't
to
have
start
that money.
saving because that show is incredible.
I know. That's what everyone tells me. And then you've got Festival of the Lion King over here. So Festival of the Lion King, kind of like the little stepbrother to those two other monster behemoths. But boy, it holds its own. This is a really great show.
Yeah, it is. So, Festival of the Lion King. If you haven't seen this one, what is first off different than this is we call it, or Disney likes to call it, a theater in the round,
Hmm.
which basically means that the stage is in the center of this giant circular room, and the audience sits in four different sections around it. And what is really unique is at the very beginning, you have four different live performers that come out that don't appear to have any relation to the Lion King, but they come out and they start engaging the audience. They divide the audience into four sections. We have the elephant section, the lion section, the giraffe section, and my arguably the best one, my favorite, the warthog section. And
Right.
they start engaging the audience, talking about these animals, teaching them how to make the sounds, which always is amusing because no one actually knows the sound that a giraffe makes. And you start getting the audience thinking about animals, and then they say, hang on to this because you're going to need to know this later in the show.
Right. And then, yeah, so I mean, you've got these really charismatic performers who come out, and I think they really, you can tell they enjoy what they're doing. They love being part of the show. And then, yeah, going forward into again, my theme of stuff you can see at the theme park, but not anywhere else. You've got these giant audio animatronic platform things that then wheel out across the stage on these little grooves in the stage. And they are, of course, as you just said, the elephant, the giraffe, the warthog, and the lion. The lion being Simba and the warthog being Pumbaa, and then just a giraffe and an elephant. And so that's really impressive. And they move and they kind of talk. Simba and Pumbaa really interact with the crowd, and they have a whole thing going back and forth. But then, other than that, that's really it. They have a Timon that comes out and walks around and is a part of the show. But that's about it for the classic Disney characters that come out. After that, it's a really cool standalone show to the music of the Lion King, sung completely live by the performers there, with other things happening that are, doesn't really relate to the Lion King so much.
Yeah, I think that the coolest part of this entire show is what we call, or what they call, the Tumble Monkeys,
Mm-hmm.
which is a group of acrobats that are dressed in these yellow and orange monkey costumes, and they bring out these different platforms and they do all sorts of acrobatics. They swing, essentially like monkeys do. They climb ropes. They jump on trampolines and jump from the trampolines up to these different platforms, and it is incredible. I mean, it's I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's really one of the only places that you can see at Disney, at least, just a full out 5 minutes of acrobatics.
Yeah, especially in this venue, because I mean they've got the acrobats over in China and Epcot, but in this, very, as we said, it's very site specific venue where they've got the props and the sets for them to use, and it's a really great kind of extrapolation. The show really extrapolates from the movie and goes and does something really cool that isn't the movie itself. So then you've got those tumble monkeys who are really amazing. You've also got when they sing, the those four characters come out beforehand. They eventually their family dynamics come out where it's kind of like the matriarch and the patriarch of these tribes, and then the younger two is always a guy and a girl, and they are maybe gonna fall in love because then they start singing "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" and these beautiful, this incredible aerialist act comes out, and she's got the silks, and she's soaring around in the sky on the stage, and they're the two young, the prince and princess, are singing to each other, and it's beautiful. It's a great, no reference to Simba and Nala in this. Simba is there; he's just kind of hanging out. There's no lions falling in love. It's just these two people singing to each other, and these two people doing this incredible balletic aerial act. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that is such a fun part of this show, and I think what makes this show stand out from, I mean, obviously the acrobats and the aerial acts and everything help it stand out, but what really sets this one apart for me is actually the singing, is actually
Mhm.
the vocals in this, because they are live vocalists, and they do really, for something that you would see at a Disney theme park, they have some incredible voices, especially
Yeah.
the woman who sings at the very end. I've actually watched the same woman do this several times over the course of the years, and she sings the ending of the show, The Circle of Life, and it's great.
Same. I know what you're talking about. I could, I went to the show so many times I could identify my favorite cast members when they were in that day or if they weren't in that day. Nobody's bad in this show, but you just had your favorite ones. And I think I know the woman you're talking about who just, had this incredible voice and she brought the house down at the very end. But I don't want to, I don't want to skip over one final thing during the Be Prepared number when they have the fire dancer out, the fire twirler guy
Oh
who's
yeah.
really cool. Again, something you can't see just anywhere else. On your street, hopefully not on your street corner. If you do see that in your street corner, run the other way. But you've got this guy who's coming out and doing these incredible tricks and acrobatics. I don't know any proper terminology for it, but he's spinning this fire baton around, and it's again comes down to that bottom line of it's pretty cool.
Yeah, this one is so cool. Of course, Be Prepared is one of my favorite things. I'm a big Disney villains fan.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing this performer, do the tricks with the fire. And then I think watching how quickly, I'm always amazed at how quickly he can set it inside this little, almost what looks like a shoebox. And the fire, I assume, just goes right out. And Danny, you have a lot more knowledge than I do as to how behind the scenes things work. Maybe you can shed some light on what happens with that.
That never really came up in my research. All I can
I
logically
just put you on
assume
the
is
spot
that it's a fire retardant box, and like when you snuff out a candle, if you block the oxygen inflow to fire, it goes out. I would assume it's probably as simple as that. It might be way more complicated, but I think it's probably just they cut off the airflow to the fire and it goes out.
All right, so I put you on the spot with that, but it is, just so amazing to see how quickly that goes in, and then, I kind of like at the end of the show how the guy who essentially would maybe represent Scar during Be Prepared, they come back out at the very end, and it's this big celebration, and one of the most fun things is they involve the children from the audience and dancing around, and they give them you know these little instruments to
Mm-hmm.
play with, and then you have some of the acrobats and the guys on stilts who then have these very long poles that have what almost look like, and I'm sure they're of a little bit different material, but they look like paper mache birds
Right.
on the end of them, and they're just beautiful. There's something about them. They twirl them around at the end, and it really is this giant a celebration at the end as again our favorite lady sings the circle of life, and it really, like, that gives you chill bumps at that part.
And especially this is where they really can make one of their Disney magical moments happen that I love to watch out for. If you ever are in here and there is a child in a wheelchair in the audience, because the stage is it's in the round, as you said, it's all flat. You will always see a performer go up to the parent and say, "Hey, do we mind if we involve this child?" And they will, without fail, if there's a child in the audience in a wheelchair, they'll bring that kid in. And this end, when everybody's circling around and dancing, they'll push this kid around the wheelchair, and it's it's just such a great magical moment for that kid and that family to be involved in this amazing show, and that it's that's great.
Yeah, I think Festival of the Lion King is one of those shows that will be timeless. It used to be located in Camp Mini Mickey,
Mm-hmm.
and then when they did away with that area of the park and prepared that for Avatar, and for Pandora, we there was I think a hot second where I was really concerned that they were going to take the show and do away with it, but they simply relocated it to a very similar theater that is now in Africa, not far from Kilimanjaro Safaris,
Yeah.
and that was maybe one of the biggest reliefs for me.
Yeah, I remember when that news came out too, and you were wondering how different it's going to be, if they were going to completely overhaul it. So this opened up. This was an opening day attraction in Animal Kingdom, opened April 22nd, Earth Day, 1998, and it was there until, as you said, it opened up in Africa on June 1st, 2014. And although the exterior of this attraction was changed to fit in more with the kind of the rundown theming of their Africa land, you walk in inside and it looks exactly the same as it did over in Camp Mini Mickey. It's literally like they just picked it up and moved it over there. It is exactly the same show, and I'm sure they tweaked some of the technology if they're building a whole new theater, but it is the exact same show from 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's great. And actually, you and I were at Animal Kingdom in February, and then I was at Animal Kingdom in June as well. And so I did. I don't remember if we saw it in February, honestly, but I did see this in June, and it was very cool because they did a little honorary uh, thing before the show where they said, this is our 20th year of this show, and I ever since I saw the show for the first time, which was not quite 20 years ago, but I haven't seen any changes to it, and I am 100% okay with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. This is, we talk about, I mean, we were talking about Being the Beast earlier. There are some movie adaptations that just don't work. This one sure does. If they never change this, I'll be happy. This show is fantastic.
Yeah.
But let's move over to another movie adaptation in Animal Kingdom. And I've got some opinions about this. We're talking about Finding Nemo over between Dinoland USA and Asia. Brandon, what are your thoughts on this Finding Nemo show?
All right. So, to be honest with you, my thoughts are a little limited because I have only seen the show about one time, maybe one to two times at best. And the reason for that might be because I wasn't really thrilled with it the first time that I saw it. If you have any knowledge of, the history of Animal Kingdom, this actually used to be the same theater where Tarzan Rocks was years ago. And, this is not far from Expedition Everest. Of course, at the time when Tarzan Rocks was there was no Everest. But
Right.
This is, I think hearing Finding Nemo the musical it sounds a little odd at first. Finding Nemo is a fantastic movie, arguably one of the top 5 Pixar movies that was ever created.
Oh, sure.
Finding Nemo was amazing, but I'm not so sure about adding musical elements into it. But go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah, well, so like you said, it's a great Pixar movie. Deals with some really weighty themes of loss and abandonment and isolation, and those are really difficult to compress into what ultimately became a 40-minute show. And I went in with somewhat decent expectations because it's adapted by Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez, who are big players in the Broadway world. They've done some Disney movies. They did Avenue Q on Broadway. I think they did Book of Mormon. They're big names. So you went in going like, oh well, if they did this, they had to have done a good job. Well, it's a 40-minute show and they've created 14 brand new songs for this show. And it's just it feels like a lot of fluff. The puppets are cool. The puppets designed by Michael Curry, who did the Broadway Lion King puppets, are pretty cool. And that checks off that part of the box of, is this something you can see only in a theme park and not anywhere else? Yeah. But then the rest of it, oh man, they rush through these songs and they try to create these memorable themes. Only one song I thought really lasted in the Deep Blue Sea or whatever it's called. The
Big Blue
I do
World,
not
right?
enjoy the show.
Well, is the song called The Big Blue World?
Something, I don't know. I just don't care.
I say that because I believe that same song is used in the Seas with Nemo and Friends ride at Epcot.
Oh, that's right. They put it over there afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, I just and I don't know, like I said, much about this show. I've only watched it once, maybe twice at best, and the reason for that is because I didn't care for it the first time I watched it. And I'm an opinionated person, and if I'm not a fan of something the first time, it's going to be very tough to convince me to do it again.
Yeah, same. I watched it once, and I went, well, I never watched this in my entire college program because I didn't care to see a 40-minute adaptation of Finding Nemo. I didn't watch it for the years I worked down there, and I finally came back on vacation from after having lived in New York for a while, and I went in and like I've never done this, and I walked out and going, never need to see that again. Oh boy. The puppets are cool, but it's just not worth it.
Well, and that actually, that opinion kind of goes to another show, and this one I'm not going to spend time on because we did say we were sticking to stage shows and live theater specifically, but there's one show that I walked out of at Animal Kingdom, and we're getting highly opinionated, so forgive us on this, but there's one show at Animal Kingdom that I have seen one time, and I absolutely refuse. I will not watch it again. Not so much because I didn't enjoy it, but I didn't enjoy it, but not so much because it was a bad show, but because I was petrified afterwards. And that's It's Tough to Be a Bug.
Oh, okay.
Where do you think that was going?
I don't know, because I thought you were going to go maybe with the Great Bird Adventure. But Tough to Be a Bug, yeah. It's 4D attraction. This has no live elements to it, no live performances. But you're not a fan of the bugs?
No, and you know what? I respect that it was well done for what it is. I'm not a fan of bugs, period. Um, and so when you put me in a theater where bugs are crawling on my seat, or at least I'm given the illusion of that, or I'm given the illusion that things are swarming around me, I just personally can't for the life of me see why anyone would want to subject them to this 20 minutes of terror.
I
But
like
that's
it.
just
I love that one. I think it's, you're safe, and you get to experience that thing.
how do you know you're safe? There are bugs crawling under your
Well,
bottom.
you get the surprise effect, sure, and the spiders drop from the ceiling, and then the grasshoppers are a little scary, but you get that theme park fear. That is the same sort of fear you feel when you
No.
go on a roller coaster. Like people go in and out of this all day long. Nothing's going to happen to me. I just watched the crowd leave from the inside of the theater. I know nothing's going to
Yeah,
happen.
they all look
And
terrified.
then, well, you know what? I mean, it's the same reason you go to a haunted house. You go there for the thrill of it. You know you're gonna be fine, but you want that thrill that you can't get anywhere else. And if this involves being poked in the back by the spiders, or yeah, when the bugs go home, you feel them moving under your seat. Then so be it. It's
Ugh.
fun.
Well, maybe that's the difference. I don't do haunted houses either,
Okay.
so
Okay.
I'm just I'm not really and call me a wimp, call me a scaredy cat. I'm not a fan of doing things that will intentionally scare me. I don't understand the point behind it. I've never understood that, but
Oh, I love
anyway,
it.
I rest my
No,
case.
I
I'm
love
I'm
it.
getting
I love haunted houses. I love spooky
well
things.
good.
Uh,
You can go to all the haunted houses and I will be waiting on the park bench with a
I
popcorn
am.
knuckle.
I actually next month for Halloween. Again, dating ourselves. We're going to release this podcast a bit later, but we're going up to Sleepy Hollow in New York, like Legend of Sleepy Hollow. We're going to go spend a couple days before Halloween right up there and go through their giant graveyard. You can see where the headless horseman is buried, because the headless horseman is based on a real guy a Civil War soldier who had his head blown off. We're going to go, wander around that graveyard. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be terrifying. It's going to be
Well,
fantastic.
you let me know when you make it out safe. I read the book and I was scared enough.
Okay, I'll tell you all about it. But so there's two more shows with live elements in Animal Kingdom I think we should cover. The first one being the recently rebranded Up, A Great Bird Adventure, which used to be just kind of called Flights of Wonder, which was another opening
Yes.
day attraction for Animal Kingdom. And this new Up version opened up on April 22nd. I swear everything in Animal Kingdom opens up on Earth Day, April 22nd. Like Joe Rohde just loves that day. If it's not April 22nd, it's not going to open up. So they'll open up early.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so I have to be honest, I have not seen this since it was rebranded. I've only seen the original Flights of Wonder.
I have never seen it either. No, I mean I've never seen it either at all, and maybe this is because I grew up in South Florida, and we had Jungle Island, previously called Parrot Jungle, nearby us, which was just a fantastic bird themed. Not theme parks and no rides, but there's just displays and exhibits of birds, and you can go see really really cool shows just like this. So I kind of figured, I've seen so much of this before. I don't really need to see this again. I'm going to go watch Festival of the Lion King again.
Yeah, well, the original Flights of Wonder show I actually loved. I think that it was really well done because it really gives the audience a look into the life of these birds. It really focuses on some of the I guess you would almost say the science behind it. How birds, act with one another, how they interact, why they do certain things the way that they do. And I think that, one of the biggest things that Animal Kingdom had a really tough time with in the beginning was differentiating itself as a theme park versus a
A zoo,
zoo.
right?
A lot of times people thought, oh, Animal Kingdom is just this glorified zoo. And if you ever go there, it is most definitely not that. Yes, you have live animals within the park. Yes, you can still go down trails in Africa and Asia and go stand at an exhibit and look at gorillas and look at tigers. But I really like that this show gives guests a totally in-depth look at the life of not just your traditional birds that you might find at home, but all different types of birds.
Right, big parrots. I've seen videos of all sorts of birds. I don't know if they do this here, but at Jungle Island, they used to have like a peacock that would soar over the audience. It seemed like a really similar show. And now, yeah, it's been rebranded to Up, A Great Bird Adventure. And from what I can understand, it's essentially the same show. The birds do all their stuff. You learn all the things, but Doug and oh boy, what's the boy's name from Up? Well,
Oh, Russell.
Doug and Russell are kind of your tour guides through this show about birds now.
Yeah, it is. I imagine still a very fun show, so I would say check it out. I think next time I'm there, I'll really have to check it out to see, how the up, characters have changed
Right.
it, but I think it would still be really cool.
Yeah. And then the final live performance show in Animal Kingdom, which I unfortunately have not had an opportunity to see yet. I don't know if you have, is the Rivers of Light over.
So I have seen Rivers of Light.
Great. This is all you. I'm going to go get a drink.
Oh my goodness! All right, so Rivers of Light is, for what it's worth, it is a cool show. I'm not going to pretend like it is my favorite nighttime entertainment at Disney. It would definitely rank out of the four parks at the bottom. Rivers of Light is basically this, again, kind of a theater in the round style. You go up into one of the rivers that runs through Animal Kingdom. It's back in the Asia area, and they've created like a little amphitheater there. And you basically go down and you watch. And I think that the idea behind it is it celebrates the world around us. It really highlights the wildlife and kind of goes through some of the stages of what we call the circle of life, which is obviously that Lion King theme, but it
Mhm.
goes through the stages of an animal is born to an animal grows up to maybe an animal learns how to hunt or learns how to defend itself or live for itself, and then it goes through the unfortunate part of death as well. And I think what it really focuses on, it kind of reminds me of Illuminations in the sense that it's a very big celebration of the uniqueness of the animal world. And this took them so long to get it going. There was a lot of technology problems
Uh-huh.
with this one.
A
They
lot of
had to
delays.
put all of this show onto one large Wi-Fi connection. And if you've ever been to Disney, they're not known for Wi-Fi
Right.
connections in the parks. So they had to create this and figure out how can we create a network that is large enough and is strong enough to support this show. Everything from the music to the lights, it's all done on timers and all done without a whole lot of cast, I think, involved. It focuses more on the technology
Right.
aspect of it, where everything's on a timer and is controlled. It is a fun show to watch. I feel like there was a point with this show where I was just kind of confused. I didn't fully understand what was going on. There's not really a grand finale with this show, partially because anybody who goes and sits down and wants to see nighttime entertainment wants to see what? Fireworks. And there are no fireworks here. Animal Kingdom is not going to have fireworks simply because of the animals.
Hmm.
So um, it's a fun show. The live performances are not really, there's not a whole lot of that in this. It's very much a water and color effect type show, similar to what I believe, World of Color might be at Disneyland's California Adventure. I can't say I've ever
Yeah,
seen
it's an
that, but
interesting foray into the nighttime extravaganza for Animal Kingdom, because Animal Kingdom for so long was not open at night because of the animals. They closed pretty much as soon as the sun went down so the animals could have their proper rest. Very big on their conservation efforts. And so, yeah, while this show opened up quite delayed, it didn't meet its Earth Day opening. I think it tried to open up in 2015. It didn't end up opening until February 11th, 2017. It's also all this effort for the smallest nighttime show capacity in Disney World. It's that little amphitheater section there. It's only 5,000 seats, which, I mean, 5,000, that's
yeah.
nothing to sneeze at, but compared to Fantasmic, which can hold 14,000 at a pinch, it's a lot smaller.
It's a big difference. They usually offer 2 Rivers of Light showings a night. And while they were waiting on this show, they had already built the amphitheater basically, but they couldn't get the show off the ground. So they really did throw together a show to fill its void or to fill something with the nighttime entertainment. And it was a nighttime Jungle Book show. And actually, I will give that show credit for what it was worth, considering how quickly it was put together. It wasn't bad.
Okay.
Obviously, the Jungle Book show was never intended to be a long lasting show. It was intended to be something for guests to go do so that no one would really question why Rivers of Light wasn't there yet. But it's a unique show. I would say go see Rivers of Light if you haven't. I don't know that it's one that I will specifically always make plans to go see, though.
Yeah, well, for a show that has Festival of the Lion King in it, or a theme park that has Festival of the Lion King, I'm okay. They've got their big show. You don't really go here expecting your big nighttime finale. They've got their projection showing the Tree of Life, which we didn't include because it's not live performance. I think it's probably worth seeing. I desperately do want to see it, but I'm also not too torn up that I haven't seen it yet. All right, and so let's talk about over in Magic Kingdom. Not a whole lot in the way of live entertainment, but they do have a couple times a day on the Castle Forecourt stage Mickey's Royal Friendship Fair, which is kind of the latest iteration of. There's always different, the Disney characters. It all kind of follows the same story. The Disney characters come out and go, oh wow, look at all these people here in the park, well, let's all have a great time. Oh no, a villain, something's gone wrong. That's okay, we'll all save it. And when I was there, it was the Power of Dreams that saved it, and Peter Pan came along, and it was a really cool show. Brandon, have you seen this latest iteration, the Mickey's Royal Friendship Fair?
I do believe I saw a small portion of it in June when I was there. Like you said, this show has gone through, I feel like it gets changed about every 2 years. They just basically call it something different. They maybe rewrite the songs for it, but at the same point, it's got the same overall purpose. Like you said, here's these wonderful, fantastic Disney characters. A villain comes along and messes something up, and then basically that's okay. Mickey and his friends save the day.
Yeah, it's a perfectly fun show. I always loved watching the version that was there when I was around a lot. I really enjoyed it. But it's, there's no seating. This just happens right in front of Cinderella's castle. So everyone just kind of stands around the hub there. And it's hard to, I think it's hard to make people stay and watch this thing other than the fact that it is really big and loud. But it's a perfectly good entertainment. You come and go as you want. Leave if you're not having a good time. Fine with me.
It's one of those shows that if you're walking by and you hear something going on, it makes you inclined to want to stop and see what's going on. So, people join in on the show in all different points. It always has a catchy song or two that makes, you want to sing and dance. And I think adding the villain aspect, one of my favorites was, and I don't remember who the villain is at this point in the newest show, but at one point you had, and it may have been in Power of Dreams, where we had Maleficent. And I thought that was really cool because Maleficent is probably one of the creepiest Disney villains that exists.
Yeah,
and she would
that was great.
Stage and
back in a Dream Along with Mickey, as it was called back then. And yeah, it was great. They had like the green fire effects, and it was really fun. I used to have to work right there in the court. I would sell we call it squeeze breeze, the little misting fans, and I would love when I got that location because you got to watch the Move It, Shake It, Celebrate parade at the time, and then you turn around and you got the Dream Along with Mickey right behind you. So you got that in Magic Kingdom. You also have the pirate tutorial with Jack Sparrow over in Adventureland, which is, we didn't even go into the Jedi Training Academy in Hollywood Studios because it's not really so much a show where there's a through line, although Jedi Training is pretty cool because Darth Vader shows up, and depending when Darth Maul might show up, but it's a similar thing here in Pirate Tutorial Training. The kids are all marched up, and they duel Jack Sparrow with their swords, and they always end up distracting them. He's got the funny sidekick, and it's just a cute little show. And then you've also got in Tomorrowland just whatever DJ show they're trying to run over in that stage there. I don't know what they're trying to do with that thing.
Yeah, the Tomorrowland dance parties are always... they're interesting because it just doesn't, to me, it's never made sense. It's never fit. You always have a couple different characters that will come out and basically play some really popular songs. Well, I don't even know if they're popular anymore. They were popular in like the 70s and 80s. And
either way, it's like Disney approved popular songs. Not necessarily Disney Channel songs, but like very, very cleaned up versions of songs that they can blast safely in Magic Kingdom.
Sure, and you've had everything from Stitch to Goofy to The Incredibles over here, and you may walk over and you may get to do the Cha-Cha slide with Stitch, or you may get to do the YMCA with Goofy, and it's cool. It's a unique thing. to me, it's just like we needed to fill this space with something, and there wasn't a whole lot of thought put
Well, I
into
mean,
it.
that stage there was built originally for they're going to do a whole Treasure Planet thing. They were trying to get the Sky hoverboard to soar around the audience. They were going to have Jim Hawkins there, and they were going to do I don't quite know what the show was going to be. It was built for Treasure Planet, and then Treasure Planet unfortunately was not a huge box office success. So they really jumped the gun on this and built it, and then now they're stuck with this giant stage there with a big screen and all these lights, and they just kind of have it there, and they're just trying to figure it out. There's always kids dancing there, and I mean, I've gone and danced the night away.
Sure.
You do it for fun sometimes, especially when you work there and you can just get in the park for free, but not an attraction, not a draw. Nobody knows it's happening until they walk by it, or they go by the people mover and see, oh, what's going on down there? There's a bunch of people dancing.
And it is fun to watch from the people mover. It really is, to watch everybody dancing. But I'll be interested to see how long this lasts. Of course, we've all seen that there are major plans in the works as well for Magic Kingdom, with a Tron coaster that'll be eventually coming to Tomorrowland. And I wonder if, because of the scope of that ride, if this will just be kind of pulled out of the area.
Could be. I mean, they are not really near each other at all. So they could conceivably just leave it, because Tron's gonna be back over behind, kind of up and behind Space Mountain, while this stage is on the opposite side of Tomorrowland. I don't know. Disney hasn't announced anything. We'll just have to wait, hold tight, and see.
At the same time, I don't know that anyone will be devastated that the dance party is no longer there.
No, not at all. No, I don't know any. Maybe there are, but I don't know anybody who goes to Magic Kingdom specifically for the dance party on a regular basis. But all right, I think, Brandon, we've done a really comprehensive review of all of the live entertainment, live stage shows you can see in Magic Kingdom. Hope you enjoyed our critique and our thoughts, especially on, we were a little harsh on some of them, but hey, if Disney doesn't do a good job of them, we're going to call them out. We're not in Disney's pocket.
And to clarify really quick, we didn't dive into Epcot, but there's a big reason for that. There, to my knowledge, are not really any major stage shows in Epcot. You have several live performances that happen in World Showcase, everything from the Acrobats in China to the Voices of Liberty and the American Adventure, or the America Pavilion. But as far as a traditional stage show, I can't think of any in Epcot.
No, yeah, and they have a lot of rotating. You're right. I meant to bring this up. They've got a lot of rotating performances that play for the different festivals they have, whether it's Flower and Garden or Food and Wine. They've got, like the tribute bands that will play. They do like a summer rock series where they have tribute bands come through and play in that pavilion outside of the American Adventure. They'll have some guys over in Canada playing a band usually, but it's a lot of bands, less so than shows.
I think the biggest stage thing at Epcot is the candlelight processional that happens every year at Christmas time. And what makes this one really unique is it's actually Disney cast members that audition to be a part of the candlelight processional, to actually sing in it. And then you always have a special guest narrator, oftentimes is a celebrity. We've had everything from Neil Patrick Harris to Whoopi Goldberg to Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah, Audra McDonald did it. I mean, Neil Patrick Harris comes to mind first because he is that guy's a huge Disney fan. He loves Disney.
Yeah, I want to say he does it every year. So it is really cool. I've actually never watched Candlelight Processional, which I regret, and I hope that one day I will get to see that. But that's really it, and that of course only comes around for November and December every year.
I wonder if it's going to be a bigger draw now, because I mean, I know if I was in the Disney parks at that time of year, I went to go see the Osborne Family Spectacle of Dancing Lights or the lighting of Cinderella Castle. Candlelight Processional was not super high on my list, but I wonder now if the last couple of years we've been without the Osborne Family Spectacle of Dancing Lights. Oh, I see that name a lot. I wonder if the Candlelight Processional will grow in popularity over the next couple of years.
I would imagine so. I agree with you, and we're getting off on the holiday tangent, which will be a whole separate podcast one day, I'm sure. But the Osborne Spectacle of Dancing Lights, I had I was very fortunate to be able to work one of the last holiday seasons that this existed. Of course, I worked it in the holiday season from 2013 to 14. So it did go on for a couple more years after that. But I'm very fortunate that I got to experience this because it was amazing. I'm very sad that it was removed. I sure hope that Disney will find a way to bring that back in some capacity somewhere. But so maybe Candlelight Processional could grow in popularity.
Yeah, possibly coming up. But anyway, winding things down here, you can reach us at distantdisney@gmail.com. Thanks so much for joining us on our journey through the live stage entertainment at Disney World. Brandon, you got anything you want to close out on?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any ideas or topics that you would like to hear us talk about, feel free to shoot us an email. We would love to. Obviously, we come up with the topics, and we've been discussing things that are near and dear to us. But if there's something at the Disney parks that you'd like to hear us chat about, by all means, let us know.
Yeah, good thing about podcasts about Disney World is you never run out of things to talk about. So I'm Danny Newman. That's Brandon Anderson. Thanks so much for joining us. And make sure to leave us reviews on iTunes, Google Play, wherever you listen. Those really help out new podcasts. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.